All right, welcome back. Sports Director Nick Carboni taking over for a little bit, and I'm sure you can guess why. The Charlotte Hornets this morning pulling off a stunning to many deal to send star point guard LaMelo Ball to Minnesota for future draft picks and big man Naz Reid. Let's not forget to mention Josh Green in the deal as well, going to Minnesota. And sticking right here in Charlotte is Walker Mehl from Locked On Hornets. Walker, obvious question first, about 9:20 when you first saw this break. What were your thoughts? We'd obviously heard Shams Charania allude to it last night after the draft.
It was all very disorienting. Last night, I saw you put the video out there as well. I was watching it live with Shams coming in, following draft coverage, telling everybody that, it's not just Jaylen Brown that could be on the move. Actually, LaMelo Ball could be on the move. And it's the level of urgency that they brought to the table with the LaMelo news, where we thought it might happen pretty soon. Shams gave us a timeline of 24 to 48 hours. It wasn't 10 hours.
We undercut
later.
that, didn't we?
Woo! Yeah, I mean, we didn't even get to the 12-hour mark. It was 10 hours later where we eventually got the news that LaMelo Ball had indeed been traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. What were my thoughts? I think initially upon hearing about the potential trade, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It just happened last year where LaMelo was healthy. He was fantastic. All of the numbers that you saw with the net rating, best starting five from 2026 on to getting to the play-in tournament for the first time since 5 years, 4 years, when LaMelo had been healthy, right? You're talking about an all-star appearance in LaMelo's second ever season here with Charlotte, and you're talking about a couple of play-in tournament appearances. And when he wasn't healthy, that's when the Hornets weren't winning games. Last year, they finally got that stuff figured out for the most part, having appeared in 72 contests. And here we were off and rolling to hopefully a 50-win season and a playoff spot, not a play-in spot. And instead, he's off to Minnesota in one of the most significant moves we've ever seen in Charlotte Hornets history. After we kind of allowed the dust to settle with the compensation, you mentioned all of the stuff coming back to Charlotte. Yeah, I think upon first reaction, it was a little underwhelming. And you can understand the vision. I would say the grade is the classic sports radio incomplete grade, because we just don't know what the Hornets are going to do with the assets, with the near $41 million trade exception that they've also created, which allows you to legally circumvent the salary cap, if you will. You get to put this $40 million that you might get coming back in a trade in a pot over here and it not count against the salary cap, which is a really valuable tool. So we'll see how they use the trade exception. We'll see how they use the pick swaps and the unprotected first, because they're not done. I do think they're looking to win next year. They do have Naz Reid. He's a good basketball player. They're bringing back Kobe White, a good basketball player. We just don't know if whatever they're going to bring back somehow, some way, flipping these assets is going to offset losing the franchise player since 2020.
Before we unpack a little bit more of each of those items, the 6 years of LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, up and down, ended on an upswing. Some frustrations off the court. I mean, nothing nefarious at any point. Maybe some headaches, if you will. All-star level play, nearly all NBA caliber play. How do you sum it up?
I thought the Miami Heat play-in game was a microcosm of his career to this point. And what happened with that game was watching LaMelo play well very early on and then go through a bunch of rough stretches, being the guy that was the engine of the offense that had been so successful ever since we got to 2026. The engine of the offense that got them to the play-in tournament. And, okay, we got to see the success. Then we got to see a bunch of the rough stretches, and we got to see some almost game-losing plays from your leader and fouling Tyler Hero there in the corner on the three-point line. Tyler Hero makes a few threes to possibly win it for Miami. Remember, LaMelo turned it over, but at the end, he made the winning play. And I think the reason I view it as a microcosm of LaMelo's entire career is because we start to see through all of the maybe lack of situational awareness to sometimes phenomenal situational awareness, the wizardry that also came with a few headaches, as you put it, there on the basketball court. Through all of it, despite the national narrative, LaMelo did end up making the winning play. And what happened nationally was people actually focused on all the negative. Despite LaMelo hitting the game-winning shot, And that is going to be our last memory of LaMelo at the Spectrum Center in a Hornets uniform. I think what we saw over the last 6 years was a guy that kept the lights on, and when he was healthy, he made the Hornets a drastically better basketball team. But unfortunately, before this season, the 3 years prior, he just wasn't healthy enough. And it's crazy unfortunate. 47 games 2 years ago, 22 games 3 years ago, and then before that he played 36 because of the injuries, the ankle injuries that mounted up, and also he kept messing with that wrist that he injured his rookie season. Yeah, I think as long as I'm throwing out incompletes, it feels incomplete. It felt like we were going to get to a place where we could win, where this front office had supplemented LaMelo with enough talent to get them to the right spot. And before he's able to reap the benefits, he's gone. He's going to Minnesota. They're going to be a great basketball team up there. Wish he could have had some more success here in Charlotte.
Here with Walker Mehl from Locked On Hornets discussing the deal to send LaMelo Ball to Minnesota for Naz Reid, a handful of future draft picks. And let's talk about that package, Walker. Listen, at face value, surface level, the basics, player, first-round pick. You get the pick swaps, second-rounders. Was this as good as it was going to get in terms of a deal for LaMelo Ball right now? Because we know teams were being, quote-unquote, aggressive, and Jeff Peterson ultimately took the deal from Minnesota, Toronto in the mix reportedly as well.
Reportedly, it is the best deal that they could have gotten. This is an aggressive offer. I mean, it's not nothing that the Timberwolves are giving up to Charlotte. Did I think it was enough? I would have liked to have gotten more, to the point where if I was Jeff Peterson, I probably just wouldn't have made the trade. But you are getting a really good basketball player in Naz Reid, who has been in the top 5 in Sixth Man of the Year voting results each of the last 3 seasons. He won it a few years ago. He's a stretch big, so it fits the identity of what this Hornets team wants to do. They have a front court player that can really let it fly from deep at an efficient level and bring you some nasty, because Charles Lee keeps preaching to everybody, we want some physicality. All right, you got a really good player in Naz Reid. You get an unprotected first-round pick in 2033. I mean, it's far out there, but I think the idea is that Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball get a little older, and just, expanding that window even further. You know how the NBA is, man. I mean, it's harder and harder to see a guy play for one team his entire career. As we're just seeing with LaMelo, perhaps even 2 teams, and that's it, his entire career. So maybe Anthony Edwards gets disgruntled, maybe you have some injuries, whatever. I think the Hornets are hoping by pushing back the first rounder that they're getting to 2033 is that whatever success they might have in the short term runs its course, and Minnesota could be bad by the time that Charlotte could get that unprotected first. The pick swaps sound great upon face value. You start to lift up the hood and you get an unprotected first-round pick. There's a lot. There's an unprotected first-round pick you're getting in 2028. That's simple, right? If the Timberwolves have a better pick than you, congratulations. You get to move up in the NBA draft. 2029, 2030, not quite that simple. You're basically getting the, second most favorable of a 3-team scenario, and that's kind of the same way that you're looking at it for 2030. Ultimately, if we want to put this simply, there is a very real possibility that the 2029 and 2030 pick swaps don't ever convey. So if that's the case, then you traded LaMelo Ball for the trade exception, not nothing, Naz Reid, an unprotected first 7 years out, and an unprotected pick swap 2 years out. That's what you're looking at. I would have wanted more from LaMelo, even if it's still absolutely a justifiable move, and the Hornets can still be really good with whatever they decide to do with all those assets and flipping them. But the package for a guy that was very, very good last season, receiving all NBA votes, I probably would have wanted more.
Walker, from about March 2024 or so until June 25th here at about 9:20 Eastern time this morning, it was in Jeff Peterson we trust for Hornets fans. Where is that trust now? It feels like even Hornets fans who are, willing to give Peterson the benefit of the doubt feel like they're flying blind a little bit, not knowing if something else could be coming around the corner.
It's on shaky ground, and that doesn't mean that Jeff Peterson is a bad decision maker at all. Nick, I can't tell you that I've disagreed with really any decision that Jeff Peterson has made to improve this ball club since he took over as executive vice president of basketball operations. The most questionable decision to this point was his first one when he drafted Tijan Salan at 6th overall. It was a really weird draft, and maybe fine, you could task me with absolving Jeff Peterson of responsibility for a draft pick that doesn't look great right now. We'll see what happens with Tijan. It was a weird draft that was widely accepted to be one of the weakest drafts we've ever seen, certainly compared to this past one in 2025, where he selected Con Knippel and 2 second-rounders that immediately contributed to a play-in team, and this past one where you got to take Christian Anderson at 18, and you also have a really nice front court player in Hannes Steinbach that you drafted at 14. So you get 2 dart throws to see if it works again, and I really like those guys. The moves on the margins, deciding to just pick up free money when you acquire Josh Green, because you're saying, hey, if you guys are giving up decent assets and you need another team to grease the wheels and make the money work, then we'll just go ahead and take Josh Green. Is that cool? Perfect. You get Josh Green, you get some of these other assets coming back to you in the form of second-round picks to grease the wheels for other deals that have been made between 2 bigger teams. Klay Thompson going to Dallas, Karl Anthony Towns going to New York. All that stuff made sense. Kobe White, what a great trade that was. Kobe could have gone to a different team. You traded only 2 second-rounders in Colin Sexton, and the moment he gave us in that Heat play-in game, it still would have been worth it. Had you lost Kobe White and he only played the 27 games that he suited up for the Hornets this past season, it's still in Jeff Peterson we trust, but you're asking just how much of that is the case today as we kind of, wrestle with these thoughts over the last 8 hours or so. It's definitely on shaky ground. It doesn't mean he's a bad decision maker. We just got to see this thing through and figure out what he's going to do with all these assets. But, man, you traded most people's favorite player. That happened. So people are going to need some time to figure all this out.
Walker, the way ownership and even today and Jeff Peterson talk about the timeline for this franchise, I think their longer view of this build is longer than some fans would like. Let's talk about what could be coming soon in a minute. But is this a team brass that's maybe willing to just roll out this roster this year and kind of hope to build off last year without making another big move, just in the interest of making that move a season or so down the road?
I will say that would be a lot harder to swallow, trading LaMelo, if you decided we're pretty good with keeping the roster as is. Even if, okay, this is the way that the roster looks now, where you're probably talking about some kind of rough-looking starting 5 being Kobe White, Con Knippel, Brandon Miller, Naz Reid, and Moussa Diabate, and then you have the second-rounders from this past year. You do have a $16 million mid-level non-taxpayer mid-level exception. So basically, again, you get $16 million to use on a player that doesn't have to go against the salary cap. And that's a nice player, but it's not, I don't think, this crazy game-changing type of player. Let's say you use that contract on somebody that can help. I mean, I don't know if that's going to get the job done, and I don't know if that's going to win fans back going for it this upcoming year, where it looks like you might have punted on what was real progress. You took a big step. You got really good way faster than anybody expected. They were the NBA's darling. Everybody wanted to watch this team play on NBA League Pass, and it wasn't just because, oh, they're fun, la-di-da-di-da, LaMelo Ball is a circus act. No, they're winning games. They're beating Oklahoma City. They're beating New York. They're beating San Antonio. They're beating all of the playoff teams, all but 2, I believe, from this past year that got into the playoffs outright, which is 6 teams before you have to figure it all out in the play-in tournament. They were winning games, man. There were real results coming with all of that fun and creativity. And so if you decide not to do anything real, if you decide not to do anything big this offseason, and we get to July 6th, and then we get to August 6th, and then the opening game starts us up for the 2026-2027 season, and the roster looks a lot like this, yeah, I mean, what is Jeff Peterson going to say to the fan base? Trust us, we're gonna make this work in the long term. Yeah, okay. Like you also have the trade, the trade exception, which I think only lasts 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Which means it goes away. That's basically lighting an asset on fire if you don't make a real signing with that trade exception. Yeah, I think they want to. By the way, I think they want to continue to get a lot better with the assets that they've collected and push those poker chips in that Jeff Peterson keeps talking about. But if he didn't, I think that would be really hard for the fan base to deal with.
All right, so thanks for playing that unlikely scenario out for me. Now let's talk about what's to come, because it absolutely seems like Jeff Peterson is back there somewhere in the Spectrum Center kitchen cooking something up deep into the night. Reportedly, this deal got done around 4 or 5 Eastern time this morning. I mean, there has to be something else, Walker, right? And I think it has to be pretty soon. Like you said, based on rules, it has to be soon.
Yeah, you would think. So the popular name out there is Jaylen Brown. If you were looking for the single player that would make this most palatable to Hornets fans, I would think it would be Jaylen Brown, who does have the Eastern Conference Finals MVP on his trophy case, and that's next to the NBA Finals MVP on his trophy case. It's a big deal. Championship player, was top 6 in MVP voting results this last year. I think some people would say you learned a lot about Jaylen Brown this past year when Jason Tatum went down with that awful Achilles injury at the end of the season prior. And here's Jaylen as the star, as 1A, leading a squad to above 50 victories, and you get the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference. It's a big deal what you got to see from Jaylen Brown. So if you brought him in because of the connection that he has with Charles Lee, they spent that year that they won the championship together in 2024 in Boston. So it would make sense from a familiarity standpoint. So Jaylen Brown is a popular name. There are plenty of other names that you could go after, right? Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, kind of interesting in Denver. Yep. Maybe if they're looking to do something drastic over there. New Orleans, there's a lot of Trey Murphy buzz. Herb Jones is also someone that I would love in a Hornets uniform. Can you get both of those guys? People are going to throw out Ja and Zion. I simply don't see that happening. That wouldn't make much sense to me. But yeah, think about this. Whoever it is that you trade the assets for, let's say the contract is a little too large to fit into that trade exception I keep talking about. You can't break it up, right? So you can't pay Jaylen Brown $41 million in the trade exception and then pay the rest of the 12 that he has this year on his contract and use it against the cap. Whatever you trade for into that trade, if you use the exception, the trade exception has to absorb all of it. There is no, hey, I'll use 2 credit cards, pay half of it on this one, half of it on the second one, right? So Jaylen Brown, too large to absorb there. But you use the assets, you use cap space to go get a star like that that's making a lot of money. Here you have, on the other side, a hole, a money hole, to where you can just, again, legally circumvent the salary cap for a really good player. For instance, here we are talking about LaMelo being one of the most significant trades we've ever seen in Hornets history. And LaMelo this season was set to make about 45 on an ascending deal. A $4 million difference for a guy that's receiving all NBA votes. You get 2 of those types of players this offseason. Yeah, look, it's tough for people to watch their favorite player walk and go to Minnesota and possibly experience all this success, because that team's nasty, man. They're going to be a fun watch up there in Minnesota. But there are plenty of ways for the Hornets to get better and salvage what could be a big-time winning season this upcoming year in 2026 and 2027. Jeff Peterson just has to pull the right strings.
Are you allowing yourself at all to get excited about the possibility that this could all be to create space for Jaylen Brown to come to Charlotte? Because I know we had fans on the street today pleading for that to be the next move. We're not used to that here. But clearly Jeff Peterson has, dug out a big hole, and that's one guy. That's the first guy that comes to mind.
All right, so what time is it? About 7:50 as we're doing this live. That's probably enough time for me to start thinking about the positives of what could come. And again, we all acknowledge what the positives were. It's all very disorienting. It's huge news coming in such an unexpected way. I mean, I get that we had these types of conversations about LaMelo last offseason, because of the injury history 2 off seasons ago. I get that. It felt like we had moved past it. Nobody was discussing the idea of trading LaMelo Ball for anything crazy significant. And then again, within a 10-hour span, bye-bye LaMelo. Nobody was guessing that would happen. Yeah, Jaylen Brown in a Hornets uniform would be exciting. I think I am allowing myself to be excited about that. And if the point of the question is, do you think it's a realistic possibility? Absolutely. I'll ask you, who makes more sense, right?
Right.
Charles
Who
Lee's the
has
head coach
this kind of the kind of assets, the connections?
Right.
I mean, it's sitting right there. It's sitting right there. It's just hard in Charlotte to mentally get over that hump of like, really here? Okay.
No doubt. No doubt. You, sir, have been in the Charlotte market long enough now to where you know this pain 100%.
Well, I'm in it long enough to also know that a lot of regimes would have been like, yeah, no, we did that. And no, we'll be good. Just, trust me, bro.
Absolutely that too, right? So you got to follow through on all of this. But yeah, is it realistic? The Charles Lee connection, I think, is a significant one. You have the second most amount of first-round picks in the association right now. So it's not like you're going to get outbid by any team. And if you're talking about OKC, they're not going after Jaylen Brown. They're not cashing in all these picks for more salary on already a crazy expensive payroll. So the Hornets, if they really wanted to, they couldn't be outbid, depending on what they were willing to give up. Some of these other stars might be good enough for a 4 first-round pick value, but you get the idea. For teams looking to make that kind of acquisition, they couldn't be outbid. So, yeah, if not the Hornets, then what other teams make sense? I guess the questions that you start to explore is, how does it all look out there on the floor? Miles Bridges is widely accepted to be the next guy out the door. So if Miles Bridges is gone to welcome in Jaylen Brown and whoever else, right? Salary filler, whatever it is, whatever the picks are, you're talking about Kobe White, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, Naz Reid, Moussa Diabate. Jaylen Brown needs to fit in there somewhere. So now you're talking about Naz Reid coming off of the bench again. Sorry, Naz, you ain't starting here either. You're great, but you ain't starting here either. Yeah. So now it's like Jaylen Brown and Brandon as this hybrid 3-4. Do we even have a power forward? With Moose out there, do you even have a center? Right? Like that's been the starting center. Either way, that's not enough of a problem for me to not welcome in a guy that was all NBA this past season. Not enough of a problem at all.
Would it just be picks going back to Boston, you think? Or, you mentioned Brandon Miller sticking around for the Jaylen Brown experience.
Yeah, salary filler. So whatever the contracts would be, I would. Yeah. And remember, they could possibly bring in a third team to facilitate all of this. Who knows, right? It's obviously harder to get 2 teams to agree to whatever the deal might be. It's hard enough to get 1 team to agree to a trade, let alone 2, but it's still absolutely possible. So Miles Bridges, I mean, I don't know. I thought Grant Williams would be a Hornet for a long time, but if you're really looking to make big moves, maybe he just goes back to Boston and it's cool going back up there. Whatever it is, right? Like I just think Kobe, Con, and Brandon, those guys aren't going anywhere. Yeah. I would find it hard to believe that you're flipping Naz. You could, but I think he's going to be here in Charlotte. You can pry Moussa Diabate out of my cold dead hands if you want to. But yeah, yes, you would be sending players up there because Boston wants to win now as well. They want somebody to help them, even if it's to flip those assets for somebody that's going to help them in just a different way. But yeah, it'd be Miles, something else, and probably some picks. How many? I'm not quite sure. I guess that would depend on the players included in the deal.
All right, Walker Mehl helping us make sense of a monumental day in Charlotte Hornets history, doing a great job of it. And the way you're talking, man, I think we're going to have you on again soon. So thanks for joining us, and get some rest.